You wake up. The sun filters through the blinds just like it did yesterday. Just like it has for the past 30 years. But today is different.
There is no alarm clock blaring at 6 in the morning. There is no rushed cup of coffee. There is no commute, no inbox overflowing with urgent demands, no meetings to lead. You open your calendar, and it is entirely, terrifyingly empty. For decades, your life was defined by motion. You were the manager, the director, the provider, the boss, the employee. You wore a title like a heavy coat, and it told you exactly who you were and what you needed to do every single day. Now, that coat has been taken away. And as you sit in the quiet of your kitchen, a strange feeling washes over you. It is not just relief. It is a hollow, sinking sensation. Who are you, if not the person you were at work? Society tells us that retirement is the finish line. The golden years. The endless vacation. But nobody warns you about the silence. Nobody prepares you for the sudden loss of relevance. The fading of the identity you spent your whole adult life building. The Stoics understood this feeling perfectly. 2,000 years ago, the great philosophers walked the marble floors of Rome and Athens, wrestling with the exact same void. Seneca stepped away from the highest halls of power. Marcus Aurelius knew that all titles were temporary illusions. They realized that when the noise of the world stops, the real work of living begins. This video is not about finding a new hobby. It is not about filling your schedule with golf games or garden projects just to distract yourself from the quiet. It is about stripping away the false identities you have carried for so long. It is about reclaiming your mind, mastering your time, and discovering a profound, unshakable purpose. A purpose that does not depend on a paycheck or a business card. Welcome to the Stoic Guide to Retirement. Let us begin the most important work of your life. Let us step back for a moment. Think about the very first question adults ask a child. What do you want to be when you grow up? Notice the phrasing. They do not ask how you want to be. They do not ask what kind of character you hope to build. They ask what you want to be. From the very beginning, we are taught to equate our existence with an occupation. A doctor, a builder, a teacher, a manager. We are conditioned to believe that our identity is something we must earn through labor. And so, we spend decades doing exactly that. You worked hard. You climbed the ladder, or perhaps you built your own. You gathered titles and responsibilities. With every promotion, with every new business card, the mask you wore grew heavier. And over time, a strange and subtle transformation took place. The mask fused with your face. You stopped saying, "I work in finance," or "I manage a team." You started saying, "I am a banker. I am the boss. I am the provider." The verb became a noun. The action became an identity. This is not a failure on your part. It is the nature of the modern world. We live in a society that rewards visible output. A society that measures a person's worth by their utility, their income, and their status. But the Stoics warned us about this dangerous attachment. Epictetus. A philosopher who spent his early life as a slave understood the fragility of social standing better than anyone. He taught that we are all simply actors in a play. The playwright hands us a role. For some, it is the role of a king. For others, a beggar. For you, it was the role of the busy, indispensable professional. Epictetus reminds us that it is not our job to choose the role. Our only job is to play it well, for as long as it is assigned to us. But here is the crucial part that we often forget. The role is not you. The costume is not your skin. When the play ends, the actor takes off the costume. They walk off the stage. They return to who they truly are. Retirement is simply the end of that particular play. The playwright has called you off the stage. Yet, many of us resist this transition. We cling to the costume. We introduce ourselves to strangers using past tense titles. I was a director, we say, hoping to catch a glimmer of the respect we once commanded. We hold on to the ghost of our former status because we are terrified of the emptiness underneath. If you are not the manager, then who are you? If nobody is waiting for your email, does your voice still matter? If you are not producing, are you still worthy? Listen to the quiet wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. He was an emperor, the most powerful man in the known world. He could have easily defined himself by his absolute power. But in his private journals, he constantly reminded himself of his own insignificance. He stripped away the imperial purple in his mind. He wrote that Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and the same thing happened to both. Marcus knew that titles were temporary garments loaned to us by fortune. They can be taken away by illness, by a changing economy, or simply by the passage of time. And what can be taken away from you can never be your true self. Think about the relief hidden within this truth. For decades, you have carried the weight of expectation. You have maintained the posture of someone who has all the answers. You have endured stress, compromised your sleep, and perhaps even sacrificed time with those you love, all to uphold an illusion. The illusion that you were your title. Now, the universe has given you a profound gift. The gift of stripping away the false. It feels uncomfortable at first, like standing in the cold without a coat. But beneath that discomfort is a vast, untethered freedom. You no longer have to perform. You no longer have to justify your existence on a spreadsheet. The illusion has shattered, leaving only the bedrock of your character. Your kindness. Your resilience. Your capacity for stillness. These are the things that no retirement party can box up and take away. Let the title go. Thank it for the shelter it provided, for the lessons it taught you, and for the resources it gave your family. But gently set it down. It is not you. It never was. You are not a retired worker. You are a human being who has finally been given the time to simply be. To explore the architecture of your own soul without the noise of the marketplace. The loss of your title is not a demotion. It is a liberation. Imagine stepping into one of the great stone amphitheaters of the ancient world. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the wooden stage. The audience is quiet, waiting for the performance to begin. In the wings, the actors are preparing. In ancient theater, every actor wore a mask. The mask was called a persona. It told the audience exactly who the actor was meant to be. A tragic hero, a comic fool, a king, a peasant. When the actors stepped onto the stage, they became the mask. They spoke the lines given to them. They moved the way the character was supposed to move. And for a few hours, the crowd believed the illusion. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, loved to use the theater as a metaphor for human existence. He observed the people around him in Rome. The politicians, the generals, the merchants, the slaves. He saw that everyone was simply playing a part in a grand, cosmic play. He wrote in his meditations that we are all actors. The universe, or nature, or God, acts as the playwright. We do not get to choose the script we are handed at birth. But we do have absolute control over how we perform it. For the past 30 or 40 years, you have been on that stage. You were handed a mask early in your adult life. Perhaps it was the mask of the ambitious leader. Perhaps it was the mask of the tireless provider, sacrificing everything for the family. You wore that mask well. You memorized your lines perfectly. You showed up on time, hit your marks, and delivered your performance. And society applauded you for it. They gave you promotions. They gave you raises. They gave you a corner office or a sturdy truck or a plaque on the wall. The applause felt good. It always does. But here is the danger of a long-running play. When you wear a mask for 10, 20, or 30 years, something terrifying happens. The mask begins to stick to your skin. You forget that there is a face underneath it. You start to believe that you are the character. You begin to think that your worth is tied to the lines you speak and the applause you receive. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us of a fundamental, unavoidable truth. Eventually, every play must come to an end. The curtain must fall. Retirement is the moment the curtain comes down. The stage lights turn off. The audience stands up, puts on their coats, and leaves the theater. The applause stops. And suddenly, you are standing alone on an empty stage. You reach out, and for the first time in decades, you take off the mask. You set it down on a wooden table. You look in the mirror in the dressing room. Who is looking back at you? If you are not the character you played, then who are you? This is the profound crisis of retirement. It is not a crisis of money or of free time. It is a crisis of identity. But Marcus Aurelius would tell you not to despair. He would tell you to look closer at the reflection in the mirror. Because the person looking back is the only thing that was ever real. The actor is always greater than the role. The role was temporary. The role was fragile. The role depended on a company, a boss, an economy. But the actor, the core of your being, your character, your mind, that belongs entirely to you. Now that the play is over, you are no longer bound by a script written by someone else. You no longer have to perform for the approval of a crowd. You are entirely free. But freedom can be a heavy burden if you do not know how to carry it. In the absence of a boss telling you what to do, you must become your own master. In the absence of corporate goals, you must define your own virtues. You must shift your focus from the external world to the internal world. This is the heart of Stoic philosophy. Marcus believed that the true measure of a person is not found in their public accomplishments. It is found in their private thoughts. It is found in how they treat others when there is nothing to gain. It is found in their ability to maintain tranquility in the face of change. Your title is gone, but your capacity for wisdom remains. Your office is empty, but your inner citadel is intact. The work of your career is finished, but the work of your character is just beginning. Do not mourn the end of the play. Be grateful that you had the chance to perform it. But now, step out of the theater. Walk out into the sunlight as the actor, not the character. Breathe in the quiet air of your new reality. The world is no longer demanding a performance from you. It is simply inviting you to live. Truly, deeply, and deliberately. Let us talk about the silence. In the first few weeks of retirement, the silence is deafening. You might find yourself checking your phone out of habit. You tap the screen, expecting to see a crisis that only you can solve. An email demanding your immediate attention. A missed call from a colleague who needs your expertise. But the screen is dark. The inbox is quiet. The phone does not ring. For a moment, you might feel a sharp sting of rejection. It feels as though the world has moved on without you. And in a practical sense, it has. The machinery of commerce and industry does not pause for anyone. It simply replaces the gears and keeps turning. This realization can be incredibly painful. We spend our entire careers believing that we are indispensable. We convince ourselves that the company, the project, or the team would collapse without our guiding hand. It is a necessary fiction. It is the fuel that keeps us working through exhaustion and stress. But when the phone stops ringing, that fiction is destroyed. You are forced to confront a difficult truth. You were useful, but you were never irreplaceable. To the modern world, utility is everything. When your utility ends, the attention stops. This is not cruel. It is simply the nature of the external world. The Stoics had a very clear understanding of this dynamic. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, built his entire philosophy around one core principle: the dichotomy of control. He taught that we must strictly divide the world into two categories: things we can control and things we cannot. We can control our opinions, our choices, our desires, and our aversions. We cannot control our reputation, our wealth, the opinions of others, or the attention of the world. For decades, your sense of self-worth was likely tied to the second category. It was tied to how many people needed you. It was tied to the urgency of the emails in your inbox. It was tied to external validation. You built your house on a foundation that you did not own. Every time the phone rang, it was a tiny deposit of validation into your account. A reminder that you mattered. But Epictetus would warn that relying on the applause of others is a form of voluntary slavery. If your happiness depends on the phone ringing, you are a slave to the person holding the other phone. You have handed the keys to your peace of mind to the outside world. Retirement takes those keys back. But it does so by force. The sudden absence of external validation feels like a withdrawal. Because, in many ways, it is an addiction. We are addicted to being busy. We use busyness as a shield to protect us from having to sit alone with our own thoughts. When you are busy solving other people's problems, you do not have to solve your own. When you are constantly in motion, you do not have to ask yourself where you are actually going. The silence of retirement strips away that shield. It forces you to sit in an empty room with the one person you have been avoiding for years. Yourself. Without the noise of the office, the internal noise becomes incredibly loud. Regrets from the past surface. Anxieties about the future, about aging, about mortality, begin to creep in. This is why so many people rush to fill their retirement with endless activities. They join every club. They volunteer for every committee. They treat their leisure time with the same frantic urgency as their career. They are running from the silence. They are terrified of the void. But the Stoic path is different. The Stoic does not run from the silence. The Stoic steps into it. Seneca wrote that we should seek out stillness, not to escape the world, but to find ourselves. The void is not empty. It is simply waiting to be filled with something real. When the phone stops ringing, it is not a tragedy. It is an invitation. It is an invitation to stop listening to the demands of others and start listening to your own soul. What do you actually care about when nobody is paying you to care? What are your true values when there is no annual review to measure them? This silence is a sacred space. It is the workshop where the final masterpiece of your character will be forged. Do not resent the quiet phone. Bless it. It means that your time finally belongs to you. You no longer have to react to the emergencies of the marketplace. You only have to respond to the calling of your own conscience. The world has stopped asking for your labor. Now, wisdom is asking for your attention. Sit in the quiet. Let the discomfort wash over you. Let the withdrawal fade. Beneath the panic of being irrelevant, there is a profound peace waiting to be discovered. The peace of knowing that your worth is not defined by a ringing phone. Your worth is inherent, unshakable, and entirely within your own control. The silence is not an ending. It is the beginning of the most important conversation you will ever have. Let us consider the nature of time. When you were working, time was a currency. You traded it for money. You traded it for status. You traded it for security. You measured time in blocks. The morning commute. The 9 o'clock meeting. The lunch hour. The evening rush hour. Your entire life was divided into segments of utility. And because time was always scarce, it felt incredibly valuable. You guarded your weekends fiercely. You planned your vacations months in advance. But now, the scarcity is gone. You have woken up to a vast, unbroken expanse of time. And for many people, this abundance is terrifying. When you have all the time in the world, what do you do with it? Seneca, the Roman Stoic and statesman, wrote extensively about this exact problem in his essay on the shortness of life. He observed that people are incredibly protective of their money and their property. If someone tries to steal your car or build a fence on your land, you will fight them. But when it comes to time, the only thing you can never get back, people give it away freely. Seneca noted that many people squander their time precisely when they finally have it. They retire, and then they spend their days complaining about the news. They argue with strangers on the internet. They watch hours of mindless television. They invent trivial dramas just to feel occupied. They kill time, not realizing that time is slowly killing them. Seneca's message is a harsh but necessary wake-up call for anyone entering retirement. You do not have all the time in the world. In fact, you have less time now than you have ever had before. This is not meant to depress you. It is meant to awaken you. The Stoic practice of memento mori, remembering that you must die, is not a morbid obsession with death. It is a profound appreciation for life. When you realize that your time is finite, it suddenly becomes precious again. Not because it is scarce in a daily schedule, but because it is scarce in a cosmic sense. You are in the autumn of your life. The leaves are changing color. The air is getting crisp. This is a beautiful season, but it is not endless. So, how will you spend this precious currency? Seneca advises us to stop living for the future and to stop dwelling on the past. The past is gone. Your career is over. Your mistakes are made. The future is uncertain. You do not know how many healthy years you have left. All you have is today. Retirement is the ultimate opportunity to master the present moment. But mastering the present requires discipline. It is a different kind of discipline than the one you used at work. Work discipline is forced upon you by external deadlines and the expectations of a boss. Retirement discipline must come entirely from within. You must become the architect of your own days. This does not mean scheduling every minute. It means being intentional with every hour. If you choose to read a book, read it fully. Do not check your phone. If you choose to sit on your porch and watch the birds, do that completely. Do not let your mind wander to regrets or anxieties. If you choose to spend time with your grandchildren, be entirely present with them. Time spent with intention is never wasted. Time spent mindlessly is time stolen from your own life. Seneca warns us about the tragedy of arriving at the end of a long life and realizing we never truly lived it. We merely existed. Do not let your retirement be a period of mere existence. Do not treat these years as a waiting room for the end. Treat them as the main event. You have paid your dues to society. You have raised your family. You have built your career. Now, you have the greatest luxury a human being can possess. Time that belongs only to you. Use it to study philosophy. Use it to create something beautiful. Use it to walk in nature and remember how small you are in the grand scheme of things. Reclaim your time from the distractions of the modern world. It is your most valuable asset. Spend it wisely. Let us speak of the changes you can see and the changes you cannot. As you move through your 50s, 60s, and beyond, the physical world begins to subtly shift. You might notice it when you look in the mirror. The graying hair. The lines etched around your eyes. The way your body takes a little longer to recover after a long day. Society places a massive premium on youth and boundless energy. When we are young, we are taught to conquer the physical world. To build, to run, to acquire, to expand our territory. But retirement marks a transition from the physical to the spiritual. From expansion to depth. When the external world begins to shrink, when your influence at work fades, when your body slows down, it can feel like a profound loss. But the Stoics viewed this not as a loss, but as a distillation. A boiling down of the human experience to find out what is truly left. To understand this, we must look to Epictetus. Of all the Stoic philosophers, his life was perhaps the most difficult. He was not an emperor like Marcus Aurelius. He was not a wealthy statesman like Seneca. Epictetus was born a slave. He lived in brutal conditions at the mercy of a cruel master. At some point, his leg was broken, leaving him crippled and in pain for the rest of his life. He had no money. He had no title. He had no freedom of movement. By every modern standard, his life was a tragic failure. Yet, Epictetus was considered one of the freest men in Rome. Emperors and generals traveled to hear him speak. They sat at his feet to learn about power. How is this possible? Because Epictetus understood a secret that most of us spend our entire lives trying to learn. He realized that true freedom and true power have absolutely nothing to do with the external world. He built what the Stoics called the inner citadel. For most of your adult life, your fortress was built on the outside. It was constructed of bricks you could see and touch. Your salary, your savings account, your professional network, the respect of your peers, the authority of your position. You spent decades reinforcing these walls, believing they would keep you safe. But Epictetus would remind you that any fortress built in the external world is inherently fragile. A market crash can wipe out a portfolio. A company restructuring can eliminate a job. Time and aging will eventually dismantle our physical strength. If your security depends on things that can be taken away, you are never truly secure. Retirement is the moment you must stop repairing the external walls. It is time to move inside. It is time to inhabit your inner citadel. What is this citadel? It is the fortress of your own mind. It is your capacity for reason. It is your ability to choose your response to any given situation. It is your integrity, your wisdom, and your moral compass. Nobody can fire you from your own mind. Nobody can force you to be angry. Nobody can make you feel worthless without your consent. When the noise of your career fades, the inner citadel is what remains. Think about the sheer relief of this realization. You no longer have to defend your status. You no longer have to worry about the opinions of a boardroom. You only have to answer to the ruler of the citadel, yourself. When you feel a wave of anxiety about growing older, retreat into the citadel. Remind yourself that your body is simply a vessel, but your character is eternal. When you feel the sting of being forgotten by your old industry, retreat into the citadel. Remind yourself that fame and recognition are cheap, but quiet dignity is priceless. Building this inner strength requires practice. It requires you to sit quietly and examine your own thoughts. When a negative thought arises, for regret about the past, or a fear about the future, you must act as the guard at the gate of your citadel. You must examine the thought. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is this thought helpful? Is this something within my control? If it is not, you deny it entry. You let it pass by like a cloud in the sky. This is the great work of your retirement. You are transitioning from managing a team to managing your own soul. You are moving from a life of external accumulation to a life of internal mastery. The people who struggle the most in retirement are those who never built their inner fortress. When their external titles are stripped away, they find themselves standing in an empty field, completely vulnerable to the winds of change. But you will not make that mistake. You have decades of lived experience. You have survived heartbreaks, failures, and challenges that younger people cannot even fathom. All of those experiences were the raw materials. Now, use them to fortify your mind. The best part of you did not retire. Your wisdom did not clock out. Your capacity for profound peace has only just been activated. Step inside the Citadel. Lock the gate behind you. And discover the unshakable peace that was waiting for you all along. Let us talk about the trap of comfort. When we dream of retirement, we usually dream of ease. We imagine a life with no alarms, no stress, and no physical strain. We want the thermostat set perfectly. We want the softest chair, the easiest schedule, and the path of least resistance. This is natural. You have worked hard for decades, and you feel you have earned the right to be comfortable. But the Stoics viewed comfort with deep suspicion. They understood a fundamental biological and psychological truth. When a human being is exposed to constant, uninterrupted comfort, they do not thrive. They decay. Think about a muscle. If you put a healthy arm in a cast and leave it there for 6 months, what happens? The muscle does not rest. It atrophies. It shrinks. It becomes weak and fragile. The same is true for the human mind and for the human spirit. For years, your career provided built-in resistance. You had to solve difficult problems. You had to navigate complex relationships. You had to wake up and perform when you were tired, when it was cold, and when you did not want to. That friction kept you sharp. It kept your edges honed. Now, that friction is gone. Modern retirement is heavily marketed as a complete elimination of all friction. And if you are not careful, that lack of resistance will slowly weaken your inner citadel. Your world will begin to shrink. Let us look closer at what happens when the world shrinks. Many people retire and slowly retreat into a very small, perfectly controlled bubble. They only go to the same places. They only talk to people who share their exact opinions. They carefully curate their environment so they never experience a single moment of discomfort. And what is the result? They become deeply unhappy and, ironically, highly anxious. They find themselves getting unreasonably angry over a long line at the grocery store. They lose their temper over a minor delay or a change in plans. Why? Because when you never face real adversity, minor inconveniences feel like massive tragedies. Your tolerance for discomfort drops to zero. Seneca saw this happening to the wealthy elite in ancient Rome. They had servants, heated floors, and endless feasts. But they were miserable, perpetually anxious and terrified of losing what they had. To inoculate himself against this weakness, Seneca practiced what we now call voluntary discomfort. Every month, for a few days, he would leave his comfortable estate. He would wear rough clothes. He would eat the cheapest, most basic food. He would sleep on the hard ground. He did this, he wrote, to ask himself a simple question. Is this what I feared? By intentionally stepping into discomfort, he stripped away its power over him. He proved to himself that his happiness did not depend on luxury. He broke the addiction to ease. Now, I am not suggesting you sleep on the dirt. At this stage in life, your body requires respect, maintenance, and care. But you must find ways to introduce voluntary discomfort into your weekly routine. You must manufacture your own resistance. Take a walk outside when it is raining or cold. Do not wear the heavy coat immediately. Let yourself feel the chill for a few minutes. Fast for a day, or skip a meal, just to remind yourself what hunger feels like. Turn off the hot water at the end of your shower for 30 seconds. These physical acts of discomfort are not punishments. They are reminders. They remind your body that it is still capable of enduring hardship. They send a powerful, undeniable signal to your brain that you are not fragile. But the practice goes beyond the physical. You must also practice mental discomfort. Do not just read books that agree with your worldview. Read things that challenge you. Read complex philosophy that forces you to pause, reread, and think deeply. Try to learn a new skill that makes you feel incompetent. In your career, you were the expert. You knew the answers. It is incredibly uncomfortable to be a beginner again, especially after 50. To fumble, to make mistakes, to feel foolish. Embrace that foolishness. When you embrace voluntary discomfort, a miraculous thing happens. Your anxiety about the future begins to melt away. Most of our anxiety is simply the fear of losing our comfort. The fear of an economic downturn, the fear of losing status, the fear of a changing world. But when you regularly practice being uncomfortable, you realize something profound. You realize you will be okay. You realize that if the market crashes, you can still find joy in a simple bowl of soup. If the heater breaks, you know how to endure the cold. You stop being a hostage to perfect conditions. You become anti-fragile. A breeze blows out a candle, but it fuels a fire. Comfort turns you into a candle. Voluntary discomfort turns you into a fire. Do not let retirement turn you into someone soft and easily broken. Keep your edges sharp. Invite a little hardship into your day. Smile at the cold wind. Lean into the difficulty of a new task. Prove to yourself, again and again, that the strength that built your career is still inside you. It has not retired. It is simply waiting for you to call upon it. Let us talk about the passage of time. There is a terrible phrase that modern society repeats endlessly. They say that youth is the best time of your life. They tell you that your golden years are behind you, buried somewhere in your 20s or 30s. Because of this belief, entire industries are built on the promise of turning back the clock. We dye our hair, we hide our wrinkles, and we try to dress like people half our age. We look at old photographs and feel a sharp ache in our chest. We miss the energy we used to have, the speed at which we could move, and the way the world looked at us. But the Stoics believe that wishing to go backward is the ultimate tragedy. It is a rejection of reality. And to reject reality is to guarantee your own suffering. Instead of fighting the current of time, the Stoics practiced a concept called Amor Fati. It translates to the love of fate. Notice that it is not called the tolerance of fate. It is not called the quiet resignation to fate. It is the active, enthusiastic love of exactly what is happening to you right now. To practice Amor Fati in retirement means to look at your current stage of life and declare it good. Not just acceptable, but necessary and beautiful. Why would you want to be 30 again? Think back, with brutal honesty, to what it was actually like to be young. Youth is filled with desperate ambition and exhausting insecurity. When you were young, you were constantly trying to prove your worth. You were worried about what your boss thought of you, what your neighbors thought of you, what society demanded of you. You were fighting to build a life, carrying the immense pressure of the future on your back. You have already fought that battle. And you survived it. To wish to be young again is to wish to carry that heavy burden all over again. You have finally reached the summit of the mountain, and yet you are looking down. Wishing you were back in the valley, struggling with the climb. Amor Fati asks you to appreciate the view from the top. Yes, your body may ache a little more when you wake up. Yes, the world is moving faster than it used to, and technology seems to change every single week. But with age comes a superpower that youth can never possess. Clarity. You no longer have to pretend to like people you do not respect. You no longer have to chase promotions or impress strangers. You finally know what actually matters, and more importantly, you know what does not. You have seen trends come and go. You have seen crises that were supposed to end the world, and you watched the sun rise the next morning anyway. You have a deep, quiet resilience that can only be earned by surviving decades of human existence. Do not devalue that wisdom by wishing for tighter skin or a faster metabolism. Seneca wrote beautifully about the seasons of life. He observed that nature does not fight its own cycles. An oak tree does not mourn the loss of its green leaves when autumn arrives. It does not try to hold on to the summer. When the air turns cold, the tree pulls its energy inward. It deepens its roots. It prepares for the quiet of winter. The tree understands that autumn has its own distinct beauty. The leaves turn brilliant shades of gold and red before they fall. They are beautiful precisely because they are fragile and because they are letting go. You are in the autumn of your life. It is not a time for the frantic growth of spring. It is a time for harvesting what you have planted. When you look in the mirror and see the silver in your hair, practice Amor Fati. Say to yourself, this is exactly how I am supposed to look. Every line on your face is a map of the life you have lived. They are the physical evidence of your laughter, your grief, your deep focus, and your survival. When you feel your body slowing down, do not get angry at it. Practice Amor Fati. Say to yourself, my body is asking for a different pace. And I will gladly give it. There is a profound dignity in moving slowly. in taking your time, in refusing to be rushed by a frantic world. You cannot control the passage of time. You cannot negotiate with aging. But you can choose to love the season you are in. You can choose to be the most magnificent version of a person at your exact age. Stop looking over your shoulder at the ghost of who you used to be. That person did their job. They got you here. Thank them, and then let them go. Turn your face forward. Embrace the autumn. Love your fate, entirely and without condition. It is the only one you have. And if you look closely, you will see that it is a masterpiece. Let us talk about the concept of the hive. When you leave the workforce, there is a very strong, almost biological instinct to pull up the drawbridge. You have spent decades fighting in the arena of public life. You have dealt with difficult colleagues, demanding clients, and the endless friction of society. So, when retirement finally arrives, the temptation is to retreat completely. To build a high fence around your property. To interact only with a small, predictable circle of friends. To say to the world, I have done my part, now leave me alone. This isolation feels like safety. But the Stoics would warn you that it is a dangerous illusion. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the emperor of Rome, frequently wrote about the danger of isolating oneself. He based his entire worldview on a profound concept called Sympatheia. Sympatheia is the belief that all things are mutually woven together. That the universe is a single living organism, and every human being is a vital cell within that body. He wrote, "We were born for cooperation, like feet, like hands. Like the upper and lower rows of teeth. To act against one another. Or to cut yourself off from the rest of humanity is contrary to nature." Marcus loved the metaphor of the beehive. He reminded himself daily, what brings no benefit to the hive, brings no benefit to the bee. When you retire, you might feel as though you have been permanently disconnected from the hive. You no longer have a corporate team. You no longer have a daily role in the economic machinery. But Marcus would tell you that the corporation was never the true hive. Humanity is the hive. And you are just as much a part of it today as you were the day you got your very first paycheck. Retirement does not mean stepping out of the human community. It simply means stepping into a completely different role within it. For the first half of your adult life, your primary job was accumulation. You were accumulating wealth, building a shelter, gathering skills, and collecting experiences. You were taking from the world in order to establish your foundation. But accumulation cannot be the purpose of a completed life. A river that only flows inward, with no outlet, eventually becomes a stagnant swan. The water must flow out. The second half of your life is not about accumulation. It is about distribution. I am not talking about distributing your money, though generosity is certainly a virtue. I am talking about distributing your wisdom. This is the transition from being simply an older person to becoming a true elder. Modern society is in desperate need of true elders. We have plenty of older people who demand respect simply because they have survived a certain number of years. But we have very few elders. An elder is someone who has processed their pain, their failures, and their successes into a quiet, usable wisdom. An elder is someone who looks at the next generation not with judgment, but with deep compassion. Think of the young people in your world right now. Your children. Your grandchildren, the younger people in your neighborhood or community. They are navigating a world that feels incredibly chaotic, fast-paced, and unforgiving. They are drowning in information, but they are starving for wisdom. They do not need you to tell them how to use a new piece of technology. They need you to tell them how to survive a broken heart. They need you to show them how to handle professional failure without losing their dignity. They need to look at you and see living proof that a person can endure the storms of life and still remain kind. You have a duty to be a lighthouse for them. A lighthouse does not run all over the island looking for boats to save. It does not panic when the storm rolls in. It simply stands tall, rooted deeply in the rock, and shines its light. Mentorship is not about giving unsolicited advice or lecturing the youth about how things used to be. It is about being a calm, unshakable presence in their lives. It is about listening to their anxieties and simply saying, "I have been exactly where you are. And I promise you will survive this." Your lived experience is the most valuable currency you possess. Do not take that hard-earned wisdom to the grave. It does not belong to you anyway. It was loaned to you by the universe, and now it is your responsibility to pass it down. When you shift your focus from your own comfort to the growth of others, a miracle happens. The void of retirement vanishes completely. The feelings of uselessness and irrelevance evaporate. They are replaced by a profound, quiet joy. The joy of knowing that your life is still creating ripples in the water. You may not be building companies or leading boardrooms anymore, but you are helping to build the character of the next generation. And in the Stoic view, there is no higher calling and no greater legacy than that. Find someone who is struggling with the climb you just finished, reach your hand down the mountain, and pull them up. Let us talk about the morning. For the past 30 or 40 years, your mornings were defined by urgency. You woke up to an alarm. Your feet hit the floor, and immediately, your mind was racing. You thought about the commute, the meetings, the emails waiting in your inbox. The morning was a starting gun, and you were running a race you did not design. Your body was flooded with stress hormones before you even had a cup of coffee. Now, that urgency is completely gone. You wake up, and the house is quiet. There is no starting gun. But this quiet can be a trap. When you do not have a force structure, the mind tends to drift. It drifts toward the television, toward the glowing screen of your phone, toward the endless cycle of the morning news, which is designed to make you angry and anxious. If you do not claim your morning, the world will claim it for you. And a reactive morning guarantees a reactive day. The Stoics placed immense importance on the first movements of the day. Marcus Aurelius, despite having the entire Roman Empire to run, did not start his day by rushing into meetings. He started it in complete solitude. He engaged in a deliberate morning routine designed to fortify his inner citadel. In retirement, your morning routine is the most important structure you will build. It replaces the schedule your job used to provide. But instead of building a schedule for productivity, you are building a schedule for tranquility. How do you build a Stoic morning routine? It begins the moment you open your eyes. Do not reach for your phone. Do not turn on the television. The external world does not get the privilege of speaking to you before you have spoken to yourself. The first step is a practice of profound gratitude, but not the shallow gratitude of simply listing things you like. The Stoic practice is much deeper. It is rooted in mortality. Marcus Aurelius told himself to think of waking up as a bonus. You went to sleep, and you were not guaranteed to wake up. Yet, here you are. You have been given one more day, one more spin of the earth. View this day not as a right, but as a tremendous, unexpected gift. Say to yourself, I am alive, and that is enough. The second step is the practice of journaling. When you were working, you probably wrote lists of tasks. In retirement, your journal is not for tasks. It is for your soul. Sit with a notebook and a pen. Do not type. Write by hand. Let the physical act slow your brain down. Write down what you are feeling. Are you anxious about a doctor's appointment? Write it down. Are you feeling lonely because you have not heard from your children? Write it down. By putting these thoughts on paper, you move them out of your head. You turn them into objects that you can look at objectively. The third step is the most uniquely Stoic practice of all. It is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This sounds pessimistic, but it is actually a supreme tool for happiness. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius would tell himself what he might face. He would say, today I will meet with people who are ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and antisocial. He did not say this to be depressed. He said it so he would not be surprised. In retirement, you will face annoyances. You might encounter a rude clerk at the store. You might feel a sharp pain in your knee. You might hear terrible news about the economy. If you expect the day to be perfect, these things will ruin your peace. But if you rehearse them in your mind during the morning, you strip them of their shock value. You say to yourself, today things might go wrong. My body might ache. People might be foolish. But I am ready. I will not let their chaos disturb my calm. The fourth step is to feed your mind something eternal. Do not read the news. The news is temporary. It will be forgotten by tomorrow. Read philosophy. Read history. Read something that has survived for hundreds of years. Read a single page of Seneca or Epictetus. Let their ancient wisdom set the baseline for your thoughts. When you read profound things in the morning, your mind operates at a higher altitude for the rest of the day. The final step is physical grounding. Go outside. Even if it is just for 5 minutes. Stand on the earth. Look at the sky. Feel the air on your face, whether it is warm or freezing. Remind yourself that you are a small, beautiful part of a massive, ancient universe. Your problems are incredibly small. The universe is vast, and everything is exactly as it should be. This entire routine might take 20 minutes. It might take an hour. The time does not matter. What matters is the intention. By doing this, you are telling yourself that your life still has profound value. You are no longer preparing for a day of labor. You are preparing for a day of mastery. You are taking the raw material of time and you are shaping it into art. The morning is yours. Claim it. Once this routine is complete, you will notice a fundamental shift in how you move through the world. The frantic energy of your old life will begin to fade. You will no longer feel the need to rush through your breakfast or hurry to your next activity. When you anchor your morning in stillness, that stillness stretches out and covers the afternoon and the evening. It acts as a shield against the trivial dramas that consume so many people in their later years. You become untouchable, not because you are ignoring the world, but because you have properly fortified your mind before the world even had a chance to speak. You have put on your armor, not for a war with a corporation, but for the beautiful, quiet victory of a well-lived day. Let us look back at the journey we have taken today. We began with an empty calendar and a profound sense of loss. The sudden silence of a world that no longer demanded your labor. But over the past hour, that silence has transformed. It is no longer an empty void. It is a blank canvas. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. It requires balance, preparation, and the willingness to stand firm when the ground beneath you shifts. Retirement is the final, and perhaps the most important, wrestling match of your life. You are no longer wrestling with competitors, or markets, or corporate ladders. You are wrestling with yourself. You are wrestling with the temptation to fade away into comfort and irrelevance. But you will not fade. You have taken off the mask. You have left the stage. You have retreated into the inner citadel, where your true strength lies. You now understand that your worth is not measured by what you produce, but by who you are. You have embraced the autumn of your life, loving your fate exactly as it is. And you have recognized your duty to the hive, to be the quiet, unshakable elder that this chaotic world so desperately needs. The Stoics did not view aging as a defeat. They viewed it as the ultimate victory. It is the privilege of finally having the time to complete the masterpiece of your own character. So, when you wake up tomorrow morning, do not look at your empty calendar with dread. Look at it with profound gratitude. The noise is gone. The distractions have cleared. The world has stepped back, giving you the space to breathe, to reflect, and to simply be. Your career is finished, but your life's greatest work has just begun. Step forward into the quiet and make it beautiful.